Well, this was somewhat inevitable, wasn't it? Quick video from me this evening, let's take a look. New cars registered to fleets suffered double-digit decline in April. The UK's new car market suffered its sixth fall in the past 7 months in April, reflecting a fragile economic backdrop and weakened consumer confidence. Now, this is actually quite significant because fleets, if you don't know, they account for the majority of car sales in the UK. That's hardly a surprise, is it? It turns out that people don't want to go and spend the best part of £50,000 on an electric box that's going to be worth half of that come 18 months' time. With fleet being the less profitable channel for automakers, the persistence of sluggish retail sales presents a larger issue for the UK's automotive industry. Helping consumers to feel informed, assured and compelled enough to make purchasing decisions will continue to be a critical priority for automakers, particularly given the subdued economic outlook and the impact that could have on consumer confidence. I'll tell you what consumers want in plain English: to not feel completely ripped off, taxed to oblivion, or forced into a car that's going to depreciate heavily that they didn't even want in the first place. A key question is how big a role the government can play in supporting manufacturers with these challenges, and whether government incentive can provide a sustainable long-term solution. Where do we start? Leasing companies, they make up a large portion of fleet operators here in the UK, and they issued a warning at the start of the year that residuals on EVs, they were simply unsustainable. Where they used to be able to balance out the books with strong petrol and diesel resale values, they no longer can because of the increasing share of electric vehicles. Look at Motability, the largest fleet operator in the UK. They've pushed EVs diligently, even resorting to inflated prices on petrols and diesels, and managed to amass a £565 million loss last year, citing EV residuals and running costs as a factor. If the end user isn't bearing the brunt of the depreciation, you can bet that someone else is, and they're not going to do it for nothing for very long. This is because demand for used cars is struggling to keep pace. Used electric cars, my apologies. With the volume entering the second-hand market at the end of the fleet, lease and rental contracts, something that's predicted to increase by 178% over the next 3 years, so it's not going to get better itself, is it? And used EV prices forecast to fall by a further 28% by 2030, when sales of new petrol and diesel cars will be outlawed and used examples become increasingly appealing. Fleet operators left to absorb the heavy financial impact are recouping losses via hiked interest rates and car financing costs for new customers. Now, those hiked prices, do you suspect that they're lumped only onto electric vehicles? Of course they aren't. That's part of the reason that Motability were charging, or still are charging, more for petrol and diesels to try and make up losses inflicted by EVs. Just like insurance costs, it affects every car across the board. It affects everyone. They don't just contain the increases to a single category, even if that category was indeed the cause. This is one of the reasons that we're seeing such a strong used market for petrol and diesel currently. I'm selling my old trusty Honda CR-V. Its market value is about the same as I paid for it, 3 years and 20,000 miles ago? It speaks volumes, doesn't it? People just want affordable, reliable transport. That's it. There's nothing fancy or complicated to it. Sadly, that notion of an affordable, reliable used car, that's also going to become something of a rarity, even more so than it is right now as time goes on, because people are, quite rightly, just opting to stick with their old cars.